So we'll start today. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Lovely to have you. Welcome back to 2024. It's really nice to have you here. Um, I hope you all had a great Christmas. I hope festive period. I hope you're looking forward to 2024 and what it brings. This is the first one in the 2024 webinar series, which we have at least once a month. Sign up to additional ones on the Altus website. This one's on the data trends that we're going to see for this coming year. Today, we're going to talk a bit about what those trends are, put a bit of perspective on what the last period of time, last couple of years have been like. Then we're going to talk about the data-driven consumers, a bit about advanced analytics, generative AI with ChatGPT, then using data in your innovation process, as well as some of the practical data governance techniques out there. As always, we start with an old picture of myself. I've been around for a long time. I love being a thought leader in this space. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. You enjoy these videos. This webinar is being recorded, and you'll be able to get a copy of this in a couple of days' time. Recently, and by recently, I mean the last couple of years, there's been some real shifts in the way the market works with data. It is a very evolving space over time, data industry. And what we've really seen is that over the pandemic years, a lot of organizations spent that time moving their data and analytics workloads, as well as other workloads, up into cloud platforms, AWS, GCP, Azure, etc. And there was a lot of time spent on bringing workloads up into the cloud so that at a stage they could start to really expedite the tangible outcomes that are coming from the platform. And then what we're also found in the last year or so is that the world is changing from a pandemic world to a post-pandemic world. There's a new phase of organizations wanting to look at what their customer target audiences are really looking like in this new world, and really being able to take advantage of the platforms that they've built over the last few years. And then in the last year, ChatGPT, as one of the tools in this space, really changed the landscape by bringing generative AI to the forefront. It really was one of the key conversational points over the last 12 months was, what is this ChatGPT and what's it doing? And now we got some of that rolling into this new year. Now, if you haven't necessarily, as an organization, moved all your data into the cloud or looked at generative AI or started to get your organization looking at post-pandemic world, then that's fine. Each organization is a little bit different. But what I'm talking about today is the larger data, the things that we're seeing, the trends in the market that we're seeing. And we can always talk to you on an individual basis to see where you fit in those trends. So the trends for this year that we're seeing, or actually what I did is spend a bit of time researching. And so these are the 6 biggest trends, according to a couple of websites. This one in particular summarized it very well. You can click on this link. You can also get that information when we send you the recorded video of this. The big one was really the AI revolution that's coming on the back really of the conversation changing around generative AI brought on by ChatGPT. What we've found is the conversation is breaking down from more AI being an advanced analytics block to now breaking it down into a more granular conversation about types of advanced analytics. Things like being able to take some of your review processes that you may do as an organization, reviewing transactions, reviewing customer habits, reviewing operational things that happen, and being able to scale that by having machine learning doing that review for you, and being able to scale things to reduce costs and be able to get services out to customers better. It's about doing things like customer matching and identifying problems and changing the way that your operational teams are able to target problems, as well as the generative stuff that we'll talk about soon. This is where organizations are really changing. What's happening this year is breaking it down from an advanced analytics to more granular. What can we actually put in our roadmap and start tackling this year? The next one is really around improving your data literacy. Organizations have got better data into their cloud platforms and their modern data platform. They've got their lake houses, etc., that they've now got users able to use. And what really it is around getting your users educated on how to use data in the right way to tackle problems with the right data, presented in the right way for those users to be able to make tangible outcomes from it. Fortunately, Altus are on the forefront of that, and they've got a great data literacy program out there. You can see this on our website as well. Private classes, public classes, we've got it all there. Now, what's also happening is, of course, that there's been some security challenges that have happened over this recent time. As things like generative AI come about and more cloud and more outcome-focused data is coming, as more data is getting into hands of users who didn't necessarily have it before, there's challenges around making sure that they've got access to data that's secure and they know how to use it, and that they don't use it in irresponsible ways, or you're putting generative AI on data that you shouldn't. So it's important to consider those things like confidentiality and privacy, security and the transparency of it, people's bias with data and the unethical use. Charles is our Chief Security Officer, and he's put together some great processes and policy for Altus to keep in mind and considering how we use it. And also, we've been using these processes with our customers, and we'd love to have a conversation with you about how are you doing this and what's your risk profile with your data as well as you go forward with this analytics platform over time. What's happening as well is that as organizations are looking now to they've already brought a lot of their data into the cloud. Now they're looking to use that data to find new revenue streams, new ways of capturing customer share, etc. in the market. There are new data products that customers are trying to do. They're trying to say, look, how can we solve this problem and how can data help us do that? The way that we've been looking at that is that we use the industry design think approach, which is a 5-step approach to using innovative ways to solve a problem. And we've actually expanded that out and taken it to a data-driven design think approach. It's a more in-depth process around innovating with your data to tackle problems. It's a innovative, so we call that the data-driven design think approach. And we'd love to talk to you. We've been workshopping this with customers. We love to tackle problems with this as well. But this is the sort of way that what we're seeing in 2024, customers are really wanting to use their data to now really get tangible outcomes. Achieving more with less data is really around organizations have now spent a lot of time moving data up into their cloud platform, into their modern data platform, even onto prem if you're still using on-prem data sources, platforms. And with that, what they don't want to do necessarily is going forward over the next year or so is continue to build that expanse. Of course, they do want to build it practically, but what they really want to do is start to really use the data they've got already. So it's about achieving more with the data that you already have, rather than necessarily planning to let's keep on data engineering more data loads. So that's really around then starting to look at putting together on a prioritization thing your existing map of projects that you want to do, and then looking at the feasibility of doing that, the value of those projects against the feasibility of data that you've already got will only take a little bit of additional. So really focusing on that outcome side of things. And then what we've really seen is that we're seeing is an evolution in the roles that are happening in an organization. As you're getting more work in the data science space, as we're looking at data literacy and making sure the users are smarter and more educated in how to use data, as they need to understand privacy and bias and what that means with the data, etc. And as you're looking to innovate with data in your organizations and trying to look at those outcomes as the focus with the data that you already have, the roles that you have in your team need to evolve too. And that's going to give you your team the opportunity to give your team roles that are more interesting, that keeps them stickier to your organization and gives them more value to your organization from what they're actually trying to achieve. You know, Gartner had this well laid out in their processes by highlighting that it's really focusing on outcomes, and the emergence of the roles is coming from those traditional report builders and ETL builders and data engineers to things like product managers, facilitators, um, data coaches and evangelists, etc. The evolution of those roles to match the trends for this year. And this is where we're seeing a change in the market of what job roles people are trying to put out there, what the jobs they're filling, and what the actual responsibilities are for those roles. It's really changing this year. So first, when we're now breaking down a little bit more detail about some of those trends, the key thing to, of course, remember is that it still has to tie to your business strategies. You're changing the data landscape this year a bit with all of the way that things are moving with the trends of the market, but it still needs to tie to your business strategies. That's where you're going to get sign off for projects. That's where you're really going to be gaining the most success for your organization with your data program matching those strategies. It's really understanding the data is now supporting your functional needs. It's less about building this platform of data. It's now using that platform to support those functional requirements. It's, of course, building that analytics, the advanced analytics, that stuff they were talking about before, the customer matching, the operational side of things, the scale with the survey, the scale side there as well. And then it's, of course, it's around that cross-functional side of things about having things in your data lakehouse then and being able to do views on those customer records, get a single view of patient, customer, etc., and including all of that privacy stuff. When you look to do advanced analytics into your roadmap, as I said before, it's really around being more granular with that. It's not now advanced analytics, it's around those different things. It's around generative analytics, it's about predictive analytics, it's around prescriptive analytics, etc. So it's really about identifying these types. We've got a nice process of taking you through and identifying where these are important to your organization so that these granular types of use cases, so that we can then help map these into your roadmap and also give you the tools for you to help discover what these use cases are. Just a quick explanation of these types of advanced analytics from a type of analytics. Remember, in your data space, you've still got your known data, things like your customer data, address information, product information. Then you've got a whole bunch of unknown data. Your unknown data are things like weather information, etc. It might be there's all sort of unknown data that you might bring in, external data feeds from your supplier, feeds from your customers, etc. Then you've got your questions, your known questions, things like what were our sales last month, how many products did we sell, and your unknown questions. You know, maybe how much ice cream are we selling this month because it's so hot here in Auckland. In this case, it's probably a lot, but a lot more than last year when we had the terrible storms. So what we've had over the last couple of years, well, we had even before then, a lot of time was spent on this known repeatable stuff. The questions where it was really what were our sales. A lot of that stuff historically was done manually and was spent a lot of time. And especially back in that data warehousing days, and that we still work in, of course, a lot of time was spent on building those core things to answer the repeatable questions. And then that speed too, that exploring some of those unknown questions to really then find how do we capture new customers, where are the trends, what do we need to do about it. And what's important this year, what we're seeing is a push, now that you've got those data loads up into your modern data platform, is putting good governance across it, and the right governance to say we're going to put more governance around the stuff that's really answering those questions that we know regularly, and the stuff that we're exploring for trends, etc., we put a little bit less. So practical data governance. Just a reminder that known data, known questions is that descriptive analytics. That's all that KPI stuff, the dashboards. That's the stuff where if you wanted to know the number of customer complaints, ALSIS, that's 0, of course. That's the sort of stuff that you'd see in that important and very valuable still today based reporting that allows you to see the trends, it allows you to see all that key information that running your business. That's the stuff that has historically been known as business intelligence. And we still call it business intelligence. The business intelligence term really encompasses a whole bunch of different things, but this is what a lot of people really think of it as. Then it's that discovery stuff. This was really vitally important over the last few years when the pandemic was in there and it was changing the way people use data, really the change of the market and the world as we knew it. Discovery really was provided when things like Power BI allowed users to self-serve multiple data sets and mash those together and really be able to look at multiple different data sets, looking for correlations. Maybe ice cream sold in Auckland at the moment, those correlations and discovery across those sets allowed you to find patterns that were then able to be explored. And then there's that predictive stuff. That stuff that's really that machine learning side of things. That's the stuff that's, I want to really understand, predict when we're going to have some more incidents that are really going to cause us some problems, for example. I want to predict when we're going to get a new set of customers coming and using our services, or when are we likely to churn out some customers. They're predicting based on a whole bunch of history that you've now been able to put into the platform, your modern data platform. It allows you to now be able to do some more predictive analytics, that machine learning type stuff. Really being able to classify things or failure rates, really being able to put some of your decision making into looking at the result of predictive and using that to make decisions on your business. The prescriptive stuff, is a lot of organizations have this in their future roadmap, but it's really become more important to start to look at that for 2024. This is the stuff around being able to prescribe when's a good time to do something. For example, when do you want to do proactive maintenance? You might have things like your work orders coming in. When are they needed? You might have when do certain parts on your machinery, if you're a manufacturer, tend to fail? What are the times of year with the heat and other things that mean that your machines are more likely to break? When are your people on the operational floor taking holiday? And factoring all of that into a prescriptive model that allows you to then find when's the right downtime to be able to do your maintenance with having the least impact on your overall output, and so minimizing the cost of that downtime. So that's KPI metrics in the descriptive. That's historically what a lot of stuff has happened over the last few years, a lot more discovery. And now, because you've put all of that stuff into the MDP, your modern data platform, it's around those models and the guided decisions. And of course, that is the maturity model of you going from, oops, that arrow's in the wrong place, going descriptive, up to discovery, now over to the models, and then down to prescriptive. It's 2024 is around this space here. Now, ChatGPT, a lot of people know about ChatGPT. It's worth taking a moment to really remind ourselves what it is, because it has moved so fast in the last year. ChatGPT is just one of the many types of generative AI. Generative AI is this concept of it going out, collecting information out in the ether, pulling it in, and generating an answer or context for you. Generative AI is just one slither of it. You see it now in all sorts of tools that may allow you to create images, put in a text I'd like to see, Goku driving a car dressed like Mickey Mouse. If you put that in, it will return an image and you go, wow, that's amazing that it's put all that together. So in the past, all the way back in September 2022, before ChatGPT, you may have gone, look, I want to find some information. You'd go into Google, you type in a question, it would then go and return you some results. The top result would be whatever individual organization or person had spent the most money, basically, to come up with the top result. If you clicked on it, it gave that person or that organization who spent that money their response to you, that you'd go, okay, I now know this one person who was willing to spend the most money, or however the SEO calculation works. I'm sure money has some bearing on it. But it doesn't necessarily mean this is the right answer. It then gave you one small slither of an answer for you to work on. If you'd then gone back to the responses, you'd go down further. There's a lot of ones around particular toolings. It's quite hard to find the right answer. You would have to spend a bunch of time going through all of these links, figuring out which is the best information, deciphering it yourself. But if you had Googled it, you probably didn't know the full answer yourself in the first place. So how are you supposed to necessarily put that together in the right way? With ChatGPT, there's a free version. It goes out, you can put your question in there. It then goes out, looks at all that information, and generates an answer for you based on what it found. It does all that Googling effectively for you based on a broad set of data, pulling it together and responding with that information. So in this case, it brought an answer, very good answer laid out. The free version that tells you, brings that data from September 2021. It gives you, lays out all the answers into numbered, well thought out responses, easily consumed. It gives you a bit of advice on it. It's quite a different way of getting information and putting it in there. This is one slither of it, but this we are using quite well in some of our operational side of things in terms of being able to validate in data and analytics with some teams, customers of ours. If they want to have a validation for some of the things that they're doing, they can use ChatGPT to validate the way that they're trying to do certain things and having this come back. This is a great way of validating it without just going Google and then looking at the first link that responds. Hopefully that gives a bit of context what generative AI is. But of course, ChatGPT moves so fast, and the other generative AI tools move so fast that you've got to really try them in your own context with the right business problems to really understand it. And we can help you on that for sure. In data in your R&D process, I talked about that data-driven design think approach that we've come up with, which is an evolution of design think, the worldwide innovative process framework. And what we wanted to share with you is, of course, when you're starting to innovate, and innovation is a big thing for 2024, it's really about thinking what is going to meet your customer needs, what's going to be desirable for your customers in 2024. And that's an important thing. Re-looking at what is important for your customers this year, now compared to, it'll be different from what it was during the pandemic and pre-pandemic. What's going to generate profit? It's got to give something that's going to give you value as an organization. And what is technically feasible? And that is quite important thing to think about, because with things like generative AI and all sorts of tools and advances in the technologies on the cloud, the technology is growing so rapidly that what may have not been feasible a year ago, 2 years ago, 6 months ago, is actually could be feasible now, or not too far away. So you've got to have a really keep in touch with what's there to make sure that you're up to the front about what's feasible or not. It's also important to be aware that individuals in your organization are working at quite different rates. And so as you change in this year and be more focused on the outcomes rather than necessarily bringing more data into the platform, but not everyone is on the same part about being, yeah, let's do this, let's do this. So you need to really understand, for a change management side of things, what is the appetite for people for using data in different ways? And so doing some version of reviewing that for your organization and seeing what that looks like, and then how to get people more supportive of this if they're a bit more concerned or anxious, is a really important step as well. As well as doing things like getting a gauge and doing surveys on your team and being able to do word maps on this to be able to identify areas that your team and your customers may particularly find useful. In terms of that practical data governance, which I talked about earlier about, the type 1 problems and the type 2 and being practical about the amount of governance you put across them. It's really important to look back this year, at the start of this year. This is a great time to do this. Look back at your references, your terms of reference for your data program or your data principles, whatever you'd like to call them. And look, because you may have put these together, if you have these. If you haven't put these together, it's a great time to put your data principles together. If you have put these together, you probably put them together a couple of years ago. And the market has changed so much, the tool landscape, the generative AI is snuck in there. Your organization's needs have changed quite significantly, I'm sure. And so it's worth spending the time reviewing these and making sure that they're practical for you this coming year and where you are as an organization. It's also important to make sure you're measuring against it, and what you're measuring is appropriate for what your principles are and what your program is today. For the last few years, it might have been the number of data sets, for example, and building, measuring how fast you're actually building that modern data platform. But now you've reached maybe a point that you go, okay, we're really more focused on outcomes. So maybe it's less around those ones and more about the number of actionable insights. And so it's important to review these and make sure that you've kept them they've updated them and refreshed them to a modern take of where you are. It's also important to look, and we're talking to a lot of customers around the portal and what things they have up on their portals to support their users. So this is important to refresh this, have another look at what you've got, and make sure that this is updated to give your users the right things to support the outcomes. So it might be that you need to have some guides on generative AI, for example. Things that you need something around ethical use of data, etc. Dealing with bias in data. So that is my webinar for today. It's been perfectly timed for half an hour. If you've got any questions or Q&A, just put them into the chat. Otherwise, we have recorded this. We will be cutting a version of this that we can distribute out there. Would love you to share those with you. We've talked about a lot of things in this session today. Reach out to myself or any other person you work with at Altus, and see if any of those sort of resonate with you. If you'd like to refresh some of these things, if you'd like to look at your roadmap of advanced analytics, if you want to break your stuff into more granular AI type use cases, if you want to look at your practical data governance, look at your data principles again, etc. We are here. We love to help, and we're really excited about what 2024 has to bring. Let me see, there's one in the chat. Let me just click on the chat. Oh, I had a test from Dom. No other questions at the moment. So I'll thank you for your time. Hope you have a good rest of your day, and see you on the next webinar. Thanks very much.